is Tuesday, June 16th. I think I'm officially 1 month into recording videos every day, which is, it's a milestone for me, I guess. I haven't, probably never would have imagined that this is something I would be doing. But anyway, John's still out of town. I'm still dealing with a rambunctious little puppy. However, it's a little bit earlier in the day than it might be that I'm finally sitting down to eat, since I'm kind of grounded by having the puppy here and I'm not going into the city to do a butcher shop class and then coming back home again and then trying to make the rest of the evening happen. I'm going to watch the Babadook and then I'll speak my thoughts after I've watched it. I've only watched it once, but I really did enjoy it. And I mentioned before that I was going to do maybe some mini videos on some of my controversial favorite and least favorite horror films. I don't know if the Babadook is really controversial. I guess I remember people thinking it was really scary when it came out. And then actually Horror Weekly recently did a Gen Z favorite horror movie poll, and it was in the top 10, which I'm not Gen Z, I'm a millennial, but either way, I think it's one of those movies, it was one of those posts, like what's one of those movies that everybody loves that you don't? And that was one of the ones that was really high up on the list, was the Babadook. People couldn't get over the child in it. They said he was a bad actor. Some said he was just annoying. And I don't really remember that getting in the way of my enjoying the film. I don't remember him being a bad actor. And usually that's something that I do remember, or that I do notice in a film. And I didn't think he was annoying beyond what was believable for the situation. But I'll see what I think when I go back and watch. And then I'll be back to talk about it after this. Alrighty, be back in a little bit. Well, I guess almost immediately for you. So despite having to take several breaks to attend to the puppy, who is discovering what it's like to chew on everything she can set her mouth on, and who doesn't always go potty when I bring her outside, but sometimes goes in the house, I still think that the Babadook was quite scary, actually. And, I might have to mention it again tomorrow after I try to sleep. Of course, as soon as the movie was over, I had to bring the puppy back outside in the dark. But I think what makes that movie so relatable to me is just, it's not hard for me to imagine myself in that situation. And again, the child being annoying and the child actor being a bad actor, I think that child is exactly how he is supposed to be for the story to be what it is. So I don't think that the child actor did a bad job. I think that there are absolutely children that behave the way that he did. Hyperfixates on hobbies, doesn't always listen to what his mother says, mostly because he doesn't understand the importance of withholding the truth or just lying in general. He speaks his mind, as the neighbor says, as his mother says at the end. He mentions multiple times that his father died while he was driving his mother to the hospital so he could be born, which just tends to make people feel awkward when they hear that. And there's a lot of pressure on Amelia, played by Essie Davis, who's amazing, in Game of Thrones, and then in Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities as well. She was great in that. And just being at the end of your rope, right? And absolutely, she loves her son, of course, but she hasn't gotten over grieving her husband. She is just trying to put food on the table, keep the lights on. The lights are flickering throughout the film, which is more indicative of the fact that the Babadook is there, but also it's just being able to keep a roof over hers and her son's head. And there are so many wonderful, creepy details to that movie that I couldn't even remember all of them. Just the way that the shadows move, the shapes of the shadows, how you see that, like the empty clothes in the shape of the Babadook in the trench coat with the hat, and multiple times with that, and just the way that the book is filmed and the blood coming from her throat. Like, it's just, and I I even made a note in a previous video that, it came from a book, and I love books, and you can't get rid of it also. So yeah, the themes of grief and then just absolute and total hopelessness. And at the end of it, even though they come to a sort of peace, you still can't get rid of the Babadook. So I think that's another thing that's really scary to me, other than just being very relatable, the idea that sometimes you just can't get enough sleep, and sometimes the more tired you are, you can't sleep even worse, and then it just turns into this big ball of anxiety over your head, and you know the next day is going to be terrible, and then it never stops. And social services are coming to check on her and her son. He got kicked out of school and she's not getting along with her sister, and all of this other stuff is just no one to turn to for help. Everything is so hard, and what are you going to do? And of course, things can always get worse. And just that alone just really drew me in. And then on top of that, the Babadook, for the most part, just remains unseen, right? And that's what makes him even scarier. He just exists in the shadows, and there's so many just cleverly positioned shadows throughout. And then also, the way that the house is gray, just like how it's illustrated in the Babadook, it just all brings you right in. And yeah, I still think it's a great film. Haven't watched it in years, still enjoy it. I still think it's scary. I imagine that I'll still be creeped out tonight when I wake up in the middle of the night and can't sleep. And for some reason, I'm imagining that I'm hearing a duck, duck, duck. And my husband's not here, and I have to wake up early when it's still dark outside and go to work. But yeah, I absolutely think it's scary, and I absolutely think that kid was exactly what he was supposed to be for that film. So again, maybe I'm not too difficult to please, but again, Babadook is still one of my favorites, one of the, in my opinion, scariest movies that you can watch. Preferably without interruptions in the dark, but either way, still scary. And I'm gonna leave it at that for today. I'm not sure about tomorrow. I wanted to do my controversial dislike, and we'll see if that's what I end up doing tomorrow. But yeah, great talking to you. I'll be back later. Bye.